I bring this slide back up. This was where the retaining wall was. So the client really wanted to accentuate the view. The city had a limit where where the fence line was, and basically where the retaining wall was. That was the limit. I'll go to the next, wrong way. This was the limit. Here's the retaining wall that we broke out. That was the limit for how far you could put a pool. Any sort of a water element, per the city codes, per the planning department. And the client wanted to find a way to, he wanted to extend his yard, because his yard goes way down the hill, far past where all of this is. And so the architect came up with an intriguing option. Since this was going to be the pool house for the father-in-law quarters, the city had allowed that, and that allowed them to extend out, I think, another 15, 17 feet past where this retaining wall was. And that was an allowable structure. That there was a different setback limit for that. And so what we ended up doing was going back to the city and saying, okay, we can build a structure there. We know you're fine with that. Can we put a spa on the roof of the structure? And they said, well, technically we can't tell you no. And so that's how we ended up, giving the client exactly what he wanted. So this is just getting ready to start the next round. This is kind of where we left off. Actually, I think this is still finishing up on phase one, but they've got the shoring in, the retaining walls are all pulled back. This was all of our pool plumbing. That was another challenge in that we knew that the vault was going to be here where all the pool equipment was going to go, but we couldn't set that all right now. So all of this pool plumbing goes underground and then tees off and goes over in this area a little bit further to a temporary equipment pad. And then we dug it up and extended it over where we knew it was going to be and made the connections, and then disabled the tees underground, and they're actually still there. So we had to be able to make a very quick transition. We had, I think, 3 days where we moved the pool equipment from the existing temporary location into the vault after we got everything constructed. So this was the overall design for the spa. And again, client was very concerned with safety with his daughter. But he also knew that he wanted a perimeter overflow, some sort of an infinity edge detail to this, because he just liked that look. So we had explored doing a deck level perimeter overflow, different cover options that we looked at, and just nothing was satisfying the client's desires and what he wanted. He really wanted this look of a raised perimeter overflow vessel. And so I called up at the time Paolo Benedetti. He was doing a couple of these up in the Bay Area, and I called Paul and said, hey, can I come up and check out this new technology, movable floor? And so I flew up there, looked at it, and sent some photos to the client. Client said, he was definitely interested in exploring it. And so Paulo flew down, made a presentation of the whole thing, and client signed off on it. He loved it, and he was actually really funny. He said, "Oh, so this is going to be the first one down here in California?" And at the time, I believe it was only the third one in the state of California, and the other two were up in Northern California. They had a number more up in construction, but so that was kind of fun. And he actually signed the contract, because he was so excited about it. And then he flipped to 3 or 4 pages and went, "Oh, that's how much it costs? Okay." So it was kind of a funny story. So But the other challenge, let me go to the next slide here. The other challenge was that here's the existing pool. We dropped everything down because we didn't want to block that viewpoint of from the spa here. But we also didn't want to have just on the backside any. We wanted to minimize the fencing because here's the grade down here, and so we decided to bump everything down and put a glass fence in here. So it allowed us to lower the glass so that it's much less visible in the sight lines here. Because that was kind of the main impetus for the entire design itself. So this I'll refer back to this a little bit because this whole structure it's just very super complex. So here's the existing pool. So the detail that we're looking at right here, there's the edge catch basin, this little recess, and this is the area where the future where the future surge tank is going to be. So you can see here's that edge detail. This is a void that got filled with structural foam. Here's the surge basin area. So I keep referring back to this because it took me a long time just to completely conceptualize this. It's just it's very complex little structure. So this was, again, after the first of the year, started getting, they actually did mobilize in December, started to get some of the forms set and everything, but they didn't really want us in heavy construction. So protecting everything, here's all of our light conduits. This is all of the existing pool plumbing. And you can start to see these were all the caissons. These were actually drilled previously for the building, for the father-in-law quarter that was going to be here. And pay no attention to this OSHA catastrophe here. But these caissons were in place, and so we were able to repurpose them and not have to bring a drill rig back in here. So getting the grade beams in, but you can sort of start to get an idea of just the elevation. This is the pool deck here. So there's a little slope here. So we're way down below the existing level of the pool. So we worked with Watershape Consulting, and one of the things about this job, one of the reasons it took a long time to kind of get this all nailed down was because of all of the coordination we had to have. Almost everything had to be figured out really before we broke ground. And so bringing in Twinscapes, bringing in the structural engineer, bringing in Watershape Consulting to do all of the hydraulic design, plus the mechanical layout of the rooms. And this actually isn't even the final iteration. We made some more tweaks because we added more systems and the client added laminars and everything. So the amount of pre-planning that goes into these is immense because by the time you're at this point, you have to know everywhere where every piece of equipment's going. You have to know where every pipe is coming up, where it's heading to. The pool is back here on the left-hand side. We had to come down. We had to know where those pipes were coming into the room. So every detail of this equipment room had to be figured out long before we ever broke ground because you're not going to be winging it. You're not going to be, you can, but it ends up being a total mess. So all of this had to go in during the grade beams. So this all happened within the first week of construction. They were building the grade beams, getting this wall ready, but we had to stub all of our plumbing up and literally, I mean, the guys spent, hours. I mean, it doesn't look like a whole lot of plumbing, but this is a week's worth of plumbing here because everything had to be precise right to the lines. We had string lines all over the place. Just making sure that everything is positioned where it is supposed to be and where it's going to end up and live. I'm going to move through kind of the construction of this. It's interesting, but I really want to get kind of into the meat and potatoes with Jim here at the end. At this point, this was the first pour. There was probably 10 or 12 pours on this structure. So this is the vault of the equipment room. All of our plumbing is all pressurized, everything. This entire structure was a poured in place structure, which is really, really nice, especially when we're dealing with the tolerances that we'll talk about with Jim. We were able to get everything nailed to the money. So here's the floor poured. This is the pool wall here. This is the area where the surge tank is going to be. But you can see this was the initial pour, and then this wall was shot. So this area was all over excavated, and where the surge tank is going to be. So we had to get all of our lines plumbed up into there. They came up here, caught the water from the edge basin, came down. All of our gravity lines came down into this tank. This side was actually the surge tank for the perimeter overflow spa. The other side over here was for the pool itself. So here is, this is quite a bit further down the road. So surge tank floor is poured. This is actually the ceiling of the equipment room. So we're just going up in multiple lifts. You get your staircase here. This next picture, I love this picture. This is my lead guy, Martine. I love working with big pipe, and Martine's actually really pretty small. And so this is 12-inch pipe. This is all, these were the air vents. We had to exhaust everything out of the room. So we had 3 exhaust vent systems, all went into a 12-inch, and we just exhausted that out the side of the hill. So we didn't need this kind of water plumbing, but I think that's a fun picture. So again, here's your surge tank. Here's the staircase going down into the room. And so just to give you more of an idea, this is the longitudinal room, a view of the room before we looked at it, the section view through here. So back here, you can see this back in here behind is the surge tank. But here's the spa. It's literally suspended from the ceiling. And then you've got the staircase going down, and this is where all of the pool equipment is going, and this is where all of our plumbing was stubbed up. There's a view that same day, just coming back. You can see all of our conduits, everything coming in here. They are getting ready to pour this wall. This was the end wall of the surge tank. Just a view looking back the other direction. Here's all of those penetrations for the ventilation lines. This whole side was wide open, but this is now we're starting to get ready to start bringing the spa up. This is the forming for the floor of the spa. This engineer was, like I said, he's very, 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 very conservative. And he did not really want us having much plumbing in the walls. You can see here, this wall right here, there was a 12-inch structural element here, and then another 6-inch structural element here, and this wall was somewhere 20-ish inches thick. And so literally the only place he would allow us to put any pipe bigger than 1 inch was in this void space. And again, because this was poured, we could vibrate everything and get really, really good consolidation. You'll see that on some of the later pictures when we pull the forms. I mean, we got good concrete consolidation around all of these pipes. But he was really a challenge. And so it became a bit of an issue, not an issue, but just more difficulty because all of our plumbing had to be manifolded within the space down below. So this is just a view from the outside looking back into the spa. And again, my guys starting to work here. These are the raceways that will be used for all of the hydraulic lines going down below into the vault below for the actual hydrofloor itself, for the movable floor. But yeah, you start to see everything kind of coming up. One of the things, the architect that was actually on site on this job was amazing to work with. And he CAD drafted everything to a T. And so on each of these forms, he actually laid out all of our plumbing lines based on the tile pattern. And you'll see a picture later. I don't ever want to do it again because we ended up having to tweak some of the lines and even with all of the layout. But it was, so we knew going into this where everything had to be, and it was all completely laid out for us. So here they've got the whole interior formed off. They will come in, form all of the exterior as well. All of this gets formed. And here, this was the day after they poured. They're starting to strip the forms today. But you can see all the snap ties, everything was precise. And everything was templated. They had created templates because, again, if you remember, I said the client was very go, go, go. And typically, let me ask you this, Jim. Typically, you guys want to, you don't want to start fabrication really until tile is in. Even at this point, you guys you would prefer to come in and bring your, your 3D laser in here after all of the finishes are on. So walk through that a little bit.
Sure, Dave. Thanks a lot. We actually do start fabrication concurrent with construction, but we do the fabrication of the superstructure. It goes from a conversation of centimeters to a conversation of millimeters, as you can understand. There's only an 8 millimeter gap between the floor system and the finished tile walls. So what we're going to start to do is the superstructure, the main support structure is always going to reside at least 1 inch to 2 inches away from the walls. So we're comfortable knowing that what dimensions you're going to hit, and we can start the fabrication of the superstructure and the lift structure. It is the deck structure and the finished materials themselves, that's when we move from centimeters to millimeters, and that's when we really want to have that comfort. So we'll come in with a laser measuring device, we'll shoot the walls to make sure we're spot on, and then we'll show up with the system for installation.
Yeah, so on this one, that was not an option. And this was a little before Jim's time. So we had to certify that we were going to get everything dead money because there was no way, because fabrication of these, by the time you have fabrication and then production and coating and then sitting it on a boat and coming across the pond and through the Panama Canal out here to the West Coast, that whole process is I believe it was about 4 months on this one. And there was no way the client was going to wait until we had this all tiled and then wait another 4 months. And so, like I said, the architect Corey that we worked with on here, he literally templated every single detail. We were templating the floats. We knew where the tile was going to be. And so we certified to Twinscape Hydrofloor that we would give them everything on the money. And
you did.
We had some challenges. I'll show a slide in a little bit, but the challenge was not with the tolerances. Jimmy was able to nail the tolerances and get everything perfect. The tile itself had a bit of a crown to it, and even just with that little bit of a crown to the tile, you'll be able to see some of the challenges that we had. So here, everything's poured. You can see here's your gutter detail. dropping down. The surge tank is down underneath here. We actually had another gutter along the outside here to capture the water around the back. Yeah, I'll save that for later. So again, here, you can really get a sense for a port and place structure and just how tight, how perfect, how everything was. And I believe that is the only reason I think we were able to pull this off, was because everything could be double and triple and quadruple checked. Getting this kind of tolerance in shotcrete, it's doable, but it's a lot more work, and you'd be fudging it a lot more in the float, as opposed to turning this over to Jimmy pretty tight and pretty close to where it needs to be. You can see we ended up moving a couple of these lines, but Jimmy's in here. He's already starting to do all of his penetration waterproofing. So let's talk. This is a spa. Let me just take a moment right here. It's a very deep vessel. And one of the things that you need to know as you're going to be doing a movable floor system is that this entire vessel is filled with water. We ran all of the returns, everything down below the where the floor was going to come down, suctions, returns, everything, so that the circulation, we tried to hide as much plumbing underneath here as we could. Because it's an all tile vessel, we wanted to hide as much as possible and not have, not have as many penetrations visible. So these were actually, so we put all of the infinity edge returns down below so that we're always purging that water out. We didn't want to put the heated returns down below, so we put the heated returns just above where the water was so that we could heat the spa a little bit more efficiently above the water level. But you need to know that, Jim and I are working on a job right now, and we had to actually bring the soils guy in, and the soils guy is telling us how stable the soils are, because we have to go deeper. The client wants a 6-foot deep pool. And when you're doing a movable floor system, I need, almost 7.5 feet in the most simplified of pools for the system. But on this one, we actually had to be 6+ feet in order for the mechanism that was built into here to live and to house. So there's quite a bit more volume of water that goes into these vessels than on a traditional. So finally getting out into springtime, the rains had stopped. We actually got a ton of rain the year during we were constructing this, but we had it all tarped off and tented, and the boys loved it. We never had any rain days, and they could keep working. That's my Californian here. It rains here. Everybody scatters like cockroaches in the light. Nobody knows what to do in rain here because we only get 3 days a year. Okay, starting to get into our finishes. Again, here's the pool. There's those little acrylic pieces. We had a couple of steps down so that the elevation of the spa and the elevation of the pool were essentially the same, but we got the perimeter overflow. So there's no need to run all of the finishes all the way down. So we just came in on this one. You need to have a smooth surface. I know I've been asked questions before, can you just waterproof this? I wouldn't recommend it. I don't know, Jim, do you have guys that just do waterproofing, or is this your preferred method to tile the whole thing underneath the floor?
Preferred method is to tile, Dave. It really is. It's any other material is not going to really get the flat surface that we really want to have for the perfectly smooth and steady traverse. Yeah,
and it becomes even more critical on the hydro floor, like on a larger system that's not on that is more floating, that has the guides on the walls and everything. Everything has to be perfectly flat and flush. Even your light fixtures, you can't see them here, but we've got light fixtures out here. Those light fixtures are recessed back behind the tile just slightly so that we have nothing protruding from the face of the tile. One of our details, we just use gray conduit a lot of times for our jet penetration, so that we're not having white coming through on this darker colored tile. It would stand out too much. So I'm going to move through kind of the rest of the construction here on the spa, and then we're going to kind of backtrack a little bit and get into the hydrofloor system itself. So in the room here, here's the
hey,
the
before you
surge
jump
tank.
into that, I know, Tom, you're going to have to get out of here soon. I know you're on a short time frame. We wanted to make sure to thank you for being on the call with us and answering any questions anybody had for it and giving us better direction. But you're welcome to hang around as long as you can, or you can bail out when you need to, but I would certainly want to make sure we all thank you for being on the call and appreciate you helping Dave with this project.
Well, thank you for having me. I've got another about 15, 20 minutes. I've got an appointment on the other side of town here at 2:00, but I'll hang on till then. But thank you. It's been fun. Appreciate it. Cool. And anybody have any questions, my email is tom@aquamatic.com. Thank you.
And guys, we'll put all that in show notes. We'll have all that in show notes too. We'll have the links to everybody and the contact information. Give these guys your business, give them phone calls. They will help you walk through the dance and nuances of how to close deals with these kind of complex systems for sure.
Yeah, and Tom's great. We chat, basically almost on every job, and I'll call him and, hey, Tom, I got this weird thing, and real easy to work with, and just the whole team at Aquamatic too. I can't speak highly enough for them. I love working with their system. I think it's the best in the market, and just the backup that you get from them as well. So. All right, so now so you can start to see here, this is the wall of the spa here. Here's the surge tank. The spa surge tank is back in the back here. There's this pool surge tank. But here are our 1-inch lines, which were all that the engineer would allow us to embed within this port-in-place wall. So all these is literally lines going over, up, and then tied to a jet assembly in the wall. Because he wouldn't let us put anything bigger, even though structurally these were 12-inch walls, and a lot of engineers will allow us to put 1.5 inches, even sometimes a 2-inch line embedded in there, provided we can get our clearances. This engineer was adamant about it. So this is down in the equipment room. One of the nice touches I think they did a full epoxy floor, makes cleanup really, really simple. Everything just hoses down into this sump pit. This floor is all sloped. Makes for real easy maintenance and keeping the place real sanitary. But here you can start to see. So this is that same wall, surge tank. We had to run all of our manifolding, all of our everything on the outside of the spa. And so we had the unistrut, it's all stainless steel unistrut, strut to the sides of the wall. Here's all of our jet penetrations. And we actually, Martin kind of ripped his hair out here a little bit, making sure that everything was balanced and that we had good balanced flow through all of the jets. And trying to figure out where our T's were going to be, how we were going to get this all to flow properly and not have uneven flow. It was a challenge, and the water shape plans did not get that detailed as far as all of that. So we were kind of, there was just too many. It would have gotten too complex to start working through that. So we did most of this in the field. Now I know, this was a few years ago. I know, Rick, you guys are, this is kind of why you guys have moved into all of the Revit, because some of these kind of details you can actually work out in Revit a whole lot more, and it makes something like this a lot less of a nightmare. You can figure out the challenges in the office before you're trying to wing it in the field.
Yeah, we certainly, I mean, with Revit modeling and when you do it correctly in Revit, we end up with, fitting sizes are 100% or almost 100% accurate. And, every turn, every piece of pipe can be properly sized. Even the unistruts are in place. And so there's two things it does. Obviously, we can reconfigure the room 10 times in a few hours, right? And start and try to put pumps in places and run plumbing to them and go, oh, this one's going to cross that one. I've got to go around it. But if I move it over here, so it gives us the ability to provide the plumber a lot of information ahead of time. The other critical thing when we're dealing with rooms like this is it allows us to slice the drawing anywhere. And so where you've got 12 pipes coming through a wall, we can literally slice the wall at that location and give you a dimension to every single pipe and identify every pipe as well. And so which one is top left and what size it is. So when it enters the room, it goes where it needs to without getting, other interactions. And so it also helps too, because most of these type of rooms start getting HVAC systems in them and everything else from the pool, the house, it is really helpful. It takes a lot of time. Don't get me wrong. We spend, extra hours doing it, but I think it hugely cuts down the problems in the field and the guests that, well, I think that's enough space. Will everything fit in here? We actually fit it all in place, and we set the chemical tanks in place, the chemical controllers, the electrical panels, and the clearances in front of them. We don't do it on every job, but in a job just like this, if it wasn't years ago, this is exactly the type of job we would spend all that time to manage all those problems. And it even starts helping us running into structural issues with, we got too much steel in a wall. And if you have a really tough engineer, we can show what type of wall space we're taking up, what the clearances need to be. And it really is helpful. So this is just an older project that wouldn't have had as much help. The Revit wasn't as far along as it is now. It's a super helpful project to solve these problems.
Yep. So this is getting towards the end. We came in, we painted all the pipes white. We hadn't finished the painting on these yet, but yeah, you sort of start to get more of an idea of kind of what went into this. And again, this extends around and everything on the other side as well. I want to blow in on this piece right here. This is actually coming out of the gutter from the perimeter overflow of the spa. And we actually came in, and I don't have another picture of this. We changed this out because there's a huge pine trees in this backyard. And even though this is a 3-inch line and it comes up into a 4, we were getting some debris that was captured in here. And so what we came in, we actually came in and opened this up and came down and put a T in here, and then came around and put a clean out in the bottom of this. Actually, I think we put a clean out on this side, just so that once a year they can actually come in, open the clean out, drain everything out. But we're doing this detail quite a bit in our Infinity Edge or in our Zero Edge details, a lot of our gutter detailing, because the reality is as the water falls down here, this point right here, that's your invert coming back through, your water elevation is right here. And so one of the things that is a constant complaint with Infinity Edge details, especially slot overflow and gutter details, is that they tend to make noise. So we've utilized this detail quite a bit to very good success, allowing us to really minimize the noise that we're getting in our gutter systems. If you can eliminate the plumbing in a gutter completely, that's always the best, but there's times when you have to put plumbing in, and we've fine-tuned this quite a bit and having really great results. Nice equipment space. We actually had quite a bit of room down inside here. This is a ladder that takes you up to the spa surge tank that's here. You can see on this side, the pool surge tank is pretty accessible. There's plenty of room here. Client was very concerned with making sure that everybody understood what, they didn't want people going down here. There's chemical control systems, chlorine and acid. So they treated this basically like a commercial property. And so there's signs all over the place. again, yeah, there's your staircase. Just a real nice, clean installation. Again, all of this had to be planned out. So we knew where these racks were going to be. We knew all of these details before we even broke ground. So all of this had to be in place. I'll point this out. I have a better picture of it a little bit later, but the entire hydrofloor system, that's it. That's all it takes. And that's so, it's so nice when you have these going into vaults. There's so much room needed for some of these systems, and this system, that's really the entire brains, guts, everything.
Most space efficient in the industry, if I might add.
Yeah. It makes it nice because you're always chasing space. So this was the electrical area. The architect really he took a lot of pride in making the electrical area there. I love showing that picture because it's just, there's so much electrical in here, and they made it really, really beautiful.